Hey folks, we are going to get going on 1.2 of Unit 1, Create Drawings. And in 1.2, we are going to first go through some notes. You are welcome to go through the notes on your own. However, I thought I would make a little video to sort of highlight for you how I think it would be the best way to get through these notes for every lesson that we go through in the CMU Online Academy. CMU, again, is Carnegie Mellon University, and that's what this system is with the lesson 1.2. Now, they have notes, and what I'm going to recommend is that you take your time and you go through and you actually read things carefully and try everything that you can. So I'm going to model that for you right now. Let's go for it. So the first thing it says is fills and borders. In the previous section we learned how to draw rectangles, and we learned something about the coordinate system for the canvas that we draw on. So now fills. To change a shape's color, use the optional fill argument like so. So they've already written the code for us, yay, and all we have to do is hit the run button and notice that, hey, a rectangle was drawn and it was filled in with green. Yay. Okay, so then they go on to say run the code and you should see a green rectangle. Yes, we did. Woohoo. Great. Now edit the code to try to make the rectangle orange. Did it work? Well, let's take a look. So I'm going to go ahead and put in orange and see what happens. Got to spell it correctly and go ahead and run. Yay! Well, it certainly looks more orange than green. Now, for those of you folks who have some color blindness, maybe you can't see the difference. That's okay. You can try some other colors. Try black and white, for example. Let's see here. When using fill, here are some rules to follow. Include fill after the required arguments, left, top, width, and height. Always place an equal sign before the color name. So, as you see up here, fill equals. And let's see here, put quotes around the color name. You can either use single quotes like you see here, or you can use double quotes like you see here. Okay, either way it's going to work out fine. And you can see up here, in this example they used single quotes. Okay, so what I'm trying to demonstrate is I really want you to take your time and stop and smell the roses and read the details and really get a sense of what's happening. And again, even more than just reading the details, I really want you to try to understand. Make sure that it sinks in and you understand what you're reading. Now, something else that I'd like to point out is every time you go to work on an exercise or a checkpoint, you can always go back to these previous notes. The other thing is that there is online help, and it's called Docs and Colors. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and use my right mouse to say Open Link in New Tab. And when I do, I now have that page available for reference anytime I want. And when it comes to shape objects like rectangles, I can see anytime I want what all the commands are, including fill and more that we're going to learn about in a minute. So you have a number of ways to answer your questions when you're working on exercises and you're having problems. All right, anyways, let's continue on. Let's take a look at the checkpoints. So I'm going to go ahead and redo my first checkpoint, and let me go ahead and reset. I don't know whether the code I had in there worked or not, but we're going to go ahead and start coding. So let's see here. It says, fix this code to draw a green square. Well, doesn't it draw a green square already? I'm going to hit run. It looks like it doesn't. It gives me an error. It says the rectangle takes 4 arguments. Oh, it even tells me what they should be, not 5. So for some reason it doesn't like the green there. Now, I hate to be the one to spoil it for you, what you need to do to fix this. So I'm just going to say probably wouldn't hurt to go back. Oh, and by the way, when we go into the checkpoints, I'm going to go back to note for a minute. One thing that you might want to consider when going into the checkpoints is maybe, if we can, will it let me open in a new tab? No, it won't, of course not. Anyways, I guess in this case I'm kind of stuck. If I go back here, though, I can see that just having green alone is not enough, and that's what I got to do. So that's why I need to do something to fix up the code here to make it work. Okay, that one is too easy for me to help you fix, so I'm going to let you work on that. Let me see if we can get to some that are a little trickier. And again, I'll go ahead and reset the code. I don't know whether mine was right or not. Let's see here. So my code is reset. It has 2 errors. Oh, okay. So in this case, it might be a little bit tricky for you to figure out what the error is here. You'll notice that they do have fill equals some color, but and they have all the numbers, but we're not getting a rectangle. It's not being drawn, and the error message is not very clear. All it says is non-keyword argument after keyword argument. So I'm not sure what that means. And even their little arrow here that says where the error is taking place, it's not entirely obvious why they're saying that there's an error there. The problem is that this fill equals brown command, it's in the wrong place. If we go back to our documents that I opened in this other tab, we can see that you got to have the fill after the left top width and height. Now, that is not always true in all programming languages, and even if you're designing web pages and you're doing HTML, sometimes you can move around the arguments, but as much as possible, we're going to try to do things in the order that we are told, especially with regard to our reference documentation and our notes. So fill equals brown needs to be moved to the back. And the other thing is, you'll notice there's something else that's wrong here with the fill equals brown. And I'm not going to say it, but I'm just going to keep moving on. And I'll let you guys work. I don't want this video to be too long. Let's see here. So drawing order. Drawing order is something that I'd like you to investigate. Depending on where your command is for creating the rectangle, you can get rectangles that are on top of one another. Well, you can make it so rectangles on top or on bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and hit run, and you should do it as well. And you'll notice that this green rectangle is on top of the orange one. And let's see here. If you wanted to play around with it and see how it works, you could go ahead and cut this line and then paste it up here. By the way, if you don't know how to do cut and copy and paste with your keyboard, it's a really good skill to learn, whether you're on a Mac or a PC or a Chromebook. I'm going to go ahead and highlight this line, and then I'm going to do Control X, and then I'm going to up arrow and hit enter, and then up arrow and then Control V. Control X cuts and Control V pastes when I'm using a PC, and I believe it works on the Chromebook also. If you're going to use, if you're using a Mac, you will use the Command key and X, and the Command key and V to cut and paste. In general, if you want to know how to cut, copy, and paste, let's see here. Control X is cut. Control C is copy. Control V is paste. And that's true for the Windows PC and the Chromebook. And if you're on a Mac, change those controls to command keys, and then that will let you cut, copy, and paste. And if you learn these keyboard shortcuts, programming is going to be a little bit easier. Anyways, you'll notice that I now have the lime rectangle first and the orange rectangle second. That should draw the orange rectangle on top. Let's give it a try. Is it going to run it for me? Oh, maybe I'm going to learn something here. Ooh, you know what? It might not let me. I'm going to go ahead and try. Oh, it did. It did. I can already see the orange went on top. The orange is just in a different location. So maybe you spotted that before I did. Anyways, good for you. So I did get the orange to appear on top by having it drawn second. Anyways, you got to play around with that to get a feel for it. Then we get to checkpoint 3. Let's see here. What is checkpoint 3? Let's take a look. Reset. Start the coding. Okay, so let's see here. For checkpoint 3, it says place your code here. What I discovered when I went through and I worked on checkpoint 3 is that I really had to read the instructions carefully. They ultimately want you to draw this box in the background, as well as these 3 rectangles. So read carefully and see what you can do to make this thing happen. As they say as a hint, remember to use the inspector to find the properties of the shapes, including colors and borders. You will definitely be doing that in these exercises. Okay, what next? Borders. They go on and they tell you how to add a border command and how to make it show up as a certain color. Then they show how to make the border a certain width. And then what else? Oh, and then they show you how to make it so that borders can have dashes as well, right down here. And you can make it a dashed border. What else? You can adjust the size of the dashes. Woohoo! Kind of exciting. Oh, and then you can make rectangles where they have no fill color at all. And that's something that I really want you to investigate. You'll notice that this is a box where all we see is a border. Now, the only thing is it's not entirely clear that there's not a fill. I mean, it looks to me like there's a white fill here. So they give you another little example where you can see this is what happens when you have a box with no fill, is that if you have a rectangle behind it, you can see the color of the rectangle behind it because there's nothing filling in this blue border. So we can see right through to that orange rectangle behind. All right, anyways, you're going to play around with this stuff. Don't just read it. Play with the code. Try it yourself. See if you can try to do what you can to understand what's going on. Okay, what else? Let's see. Run this code. See how the blue, I think, and then the next checkpoint, they actually ask you, that they're actually going to kind of quiz you to see if you understood. So you really need to play around with this stuff on the no fills in order to get checkpoint 5. What else? Default values. Here is some information that I would like you to read about default values. You're going to read this, and if you're not quite sure what it's saying, I'd like you to go look at the reference information, and I'm hopeful that the reference information does talk about default values. Now, I'm not sure that it does, but let's take a quick look here. Here's the shapes. Do they ever talk about default values? Okay, so if we are looking at shape of objects, let's see here, rectangles, where do they have the information? Down here, line-specific properties. I do not see it. I'm going to try to find it, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I tried an old trick that I use all the time, and hopefully you know this, but if you don't, you're going to thank me for it. When I'm looking here, I can't necessarily see the default values, or maybe I can actually. You know what I think is implied is that the values that you see here, I think, are all the default values. So if you don't put all these things in, then all of these, if you don't put the fill and the border width and the opacity and the dashes and all that stuff, you get the values that you see here. Now, just to be safe, I'm going to do Control F on my PC. Control F in Google Chrome brings up a find window, and you can't see it because it's at the top of the screen. Sorry about that. Let's see here. If you're on a Mac, you do Command F. Anyways, I'm going to type default, and when I do, it finds 16 examples of default on this page. So then I'm going to click the down arrow to go through and find all the different defaults. And here is where I can see, you know, they explain for the properties that are described above, they explain what the defaults are for each of them. Okay, anyways, I just wanted you to know where you can find the information. And besides all that, you can find it right here in your notes. Don't forget, every time you're working on exercises, go back to the previous section with the notes to figure out what you need to do. Okay, so what else? They have some last-minute information about the inspector here. I would like you to read it, and then we can go on to the practice. So let's go back to lessons, and we will now go on to 1.2.2 exercises. Here we go. So I am looking at, let me go back for you so you can see how I got here. In the exercises in section 1.2.2, I'm going to go ahead and click on the upper left exercise and do that first, and then click on Start Coding. I will tell you, I looked at this, and what I thought is that I thought it was tricky enough where maybe you guys could use some hints and tips, and then I'll let you figure out the rest of the challenges for this section on your own. It says, well, first of all, always read the hints over here, okay? And it says okay, draw the flag of Mali. Okay, I'm assuming this guy over here is the flag of Mali. Okay, I guess we got to make an assumption. It goes on to say, hint, draw the border. Use a rectangle with a fill of none and the inspector to find the border width. So I guess the first thing we'll do is we'll try to draw the border rectangle. When I come over and I mouse over the green rectangle and the black one, both of them say the upper left is 50, 100. By the way, I'm going to point out to you, when you go to the left, the upper left coordinate of any shape, especially rectangles, that is the left. The 50 is the left, and the 100 is the top for the rectangle. So when you go to your reference and you know that you have to draw a rectangle using left and top, well, if you just look at the upper left point of any rectangle, it is the left and top. So I'm going to go ahead and draw a rectangle with the left as 50 and the top as 100. According to what I find here. And then because I'm drawing the border, I'm going to go down this other part. It says 350, 300. So if I go x is 50 here and x is 350 here, it must be 300 wide. So I've got to put in width and height. So I'm going to put 300 for width. Now, if my math is not perfect, that's fine, because I'll know it when I try my canvas, when I click on my canvas. The other thing is the height of this rectangle. The y value is 100 at the top, and the y value is 300 at the bottom, so it must be a height of 200. And that should get me my border. The only problem is that I have to have a fill of none, and so I'm going to go back and look at my documentation. If I got here by clicking on Docs plus Colors. It says for fill, I can do this, but you might recall from our notes, let's see, can I go back to our notes? In our notes, it said something like you can have a fill of none. So I'm going to go down here. Here we go. Empty fills. You can have a fill of none. If you have a fill of none, you'll notice that you don't use double or single quotes like we did when we're specifying a color. I thought some of you might get tripped up on that, so I thought I'd mention that. Okay, then let's go ahead and do fill equals, and I'm going to do lowercase none just to see what happens, and then comma. Yeah, it seems to me like something is wrong here, because the none shouldn't be in black. So I'm going to do uppercase none, and there we go. Now it's color coded, and that tells me that I must be doing what it expected. And by the way, you'll notice in the hint, they even tell me that it should be uppercase none. And then check the inspector for border width. Okay, so if I click the green rectangle, I cannot see the border width for my black rectangle. But if I click on the black rectangle, I can see the border width is 5. You see it up there? And also the color is black. So let's go and do border. Again, if we look at my docs, border equals, and I can put some color here. I can put none here, or I can put some color. And again, we'd have to go back to the notes to see that. See, border can actually have a color. Don't forget to go back to your notes, people. Okay, then border equals, we'll make it black, and then we'll make border width, which fortunately in the inspector, it actually gives us a hint as to how to spell that. See how it has the uppercase W? And that'll be equal to 5. And I can't remember whether that 5 needs to be in quotes or not. So let's just take a look and see if we have it in our notes. In our notes, border width has a number here, but it doesn't have quotes around it. So, and even if we did it wrong, we can try running it and see if it works. So I'm going to go ahead and hit run. And when I do, I'll go back and forth between solution and my canvas, and it looks like I got it to work. So now all I got to do is add the other 3 rectangles. Okay, we are now heading into the 20-minute mark on this video, and I didn't mean for it to take this long, but I wanted you to have something in case you needed help. I'm going to let you guys go and try to finish the rest, and I will be available to you in the Zoom meeting or by remind if you need help. So I hope you're having fun. I certainly hope you have fun when you're working on this. Good luck.